So many convenience features: heated, cooled seats, heated steering wheel, multi-level.
Multi-level marketing pyramid schemes. Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt.
And my name is Paul, and we just spent a week with VW's Tiguan.
That's right. This is now the new, all-new, third-generation Volkswagen Tiguan. It's actually about 2 inches smaller than it was last year, which is an interesting direction for cars to go, but it still competes against heavy hitters like RAV4s, CR-Vs, CX-5s, and a lot of other things that we've tested recently. So I'm going to walk you around the best and the rest of this car.
Yep, and we're going to get behind the wheel, talk about some of the standouts and how they stack up against some of those competitors.
Let's get into it. Now, the first and really only kind of objective con that I can find in the Tiguan is just there's not a lot of powertrain choice. There's no hybrid. Now, that's not super surprising coming from a German automobile. Germans typically go for mild hybrids or plug-in hybrids, but you can't get either of those in the Tiguan either. Now, VW did say that a hybrid Tiguan is coming. Now, the truth is, this is not too bad. This turbo, the high-powered version of the Tiguan here, is rated for about 25 mpg. If you don't go for the turbo, it's like 26. We did our Lakeshore Loop, which, was 30 miles, mixed conditions, country roads, highways, city, and the car's all warmed up, and it did about 33.8. So it's possible to get into the 30s with your fuel economy, but more realistically, you're going to be like mid to high 20s driving this thing around day to day, depending on how much and what type of driving you're doing. So the only real con is that it might be nice, in the future to see a mild hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, and or a conventional hybrid, which they're working on. And like with anything, there's of course a couple little nitpicks. The first being less of a nitpick and more of just an interesting development. Now, this Tiguan is a couple inches shorter than it was last year, and as a result, you can't get it with a third row anymore. But personally, I think that's kind of fine because the third row is a little bit squished anyway. But anyway, there are a couple nitpicks that I do have, like there's no rear seat window shades, which is a strange omission given all the other luxury items that this car has. I don't care for the start-stop button. It looks incredibly generic, and just like every other button, it's, again, a very small nitpick. You still got slider controls for volume and temperature controls, which is not my favorite, but it is what it is. And there's no cover for your center console storage area. Your armrest kind of ratchets and slides into place, but it doesn't really cover it per se. And a lot of the VWs of yesteryear used the rear logo, the rear VW logo, to actually open the trunk. And I really liked that. It was weirdly satisfying. And they've done away with that on the Taos, and they've done away with it here on the Tiguan. It's just a normal rubberized button like you'd see in everything else. But with all those tiny little nitpicks out of the way, let's talk about where this Tiguan shines, because it really does. And I want to start the pro side of the video talking about the behind the wheel experience. Now, as standard, as far as engine goes, we talked about no hybrids and no things like that, but as standard, you get the 2-liter turbo EA 888s. They're kind of iconic 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that's all through VW's lineup. It's their 5th gen engine, and it's making 201 horsepower as base. That's up 17 from last year's base, and 221 pound-feet of torque. But this one is what you want. This is the turbo trim for 2026. This is new, and it ups the power from 201 to 268 horsepower. That's a sizable jump. That's a 67 horsepower jump. It's also very torquey, and it feels it. This probably drives and handles the most fun out of all the other rivals. RAV4, CR-V, anything like that. This certainly drives the most exuberantly. You've got an 8-speed automatic transmission. You've got front-wheel drive as standard, but you can get 4-motion all-wheel drive as an option. It's about 3,800 pounds, which actually makes it lighter than it was in the previous generation by about 200 pounds. Again, they took a little bit of size out of this thing, and so maybe that's part of it. Now, when it comes to the steering, it's fairly light, a little bit vague. It's not the strongest point of the car, but it's accurate enough, I would say. You don't have adaptive suspension. It does ride a little bit stiffer than some of the Japanese rivals. Specifically, my wife's CR-V comes to mind, my old RAV4, even with the XSE and the more sport-tuned dampers, rode softer and more compliant than this. This is certainly a more German philosophy towards suspension tuning. It's just a one thunk and done, no sloppy body motions, everything's very controlled, and there's pros and cons depending on how you want your car to behave. It's going to ride a little stiffer, but it's also going to handle a lot better around mid-corner. It does feel very torquey when you come out of that corner, to the point where when you're driving it hard in a country road like I'm doing now, it's fun. There's lots of power, there's a wave and a tsunami of torque that comes in, but when you're driving it around town and you just need it to be smooth and you're driving around other traffic, it is easiest to drive in eco mode. The throttle sensitivity is pretty aggressive in comfort and especially in sport mode. So I do find myself kind of like, I get response and then there's lag and then there's a lot of boost when I don't necessarily need it to be doing that. So driving around town, in through the suburbs, just kind of light to light, eco mode does seem to suit the car a little bit better. Just a small disclaimer there. But as far as the overall kind of cabin experience goes riding down the road, it's adequate. The sound isolation is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. But overall, I do think behind the wheel, especially in the turbo here, you've got loads of power and it's the best handler in the class. So if you want this class of car to drive the best and be the fastest without going up into X3 territory, Tiguan's got you. Another place I think the Tiguan Turbo really stands out is in terms of styling. Our tester, of course, comes in sandstone, which seems to be the paint color having a moment right now. It's kind of a grayish, you could say, somewhere between a beige and a gray. But anyway, I think it suits the car and it looks pretty good here, and I know Paolo's gonna absolutely love it. But up front, thanks to our SEL with the R-Line package, we've got a large and imposing front grille, and that lower portion reminds me very much of the last Macan that we were in. You've got new headlights and running lights up front, and the headlights are a full width design, and the front logo even lights up. That's specific to the SEL only, but still, I guess kind of a nice touch if you're into that sort of thing. But you do have the R-Line body kit, which adds a little bit more flamboyance, and we have the R-Line wheels, which are 20 inches, and they're kind of a gloss black diamond cut design, and they look really pretty cool. The R logo hovering under your wing mirror is accented well by the gloss black wheel arches, but you've got a sharp profile body line and a nice chrome runner on the upper window treatment. It looks pretty conventional SUV. And then around back, you've got the full width taillight with kind of an X-Pod design that, again, kind of reminds me of Porsche, and it goes all the way across and the VW logo lights up in the back. And of course, you've got an embellished rear bumper for your R-Line here, but you don't have any visible exhausts, even for your R-Line and turbo. But overall, I don't have any problem with the way it looks. I think it looks great. What do you think? And when it comes to the cabin experience, now VW has historically been kind of a tweener brand between a mainstream kind of Toyota, Honda brand, and then something more, you know, BMW or Audi. It's kind of that in-between, supposed to be a little bit more premium, a little bit more upmarket. And they've kind of flirted and danced with that balance a little bit over the past couple of years, but here, I think they've kind of gone back to their roots a little bit. You get insane luxuries here that you're not finding really anywhere else in the class. You've got heated and cooled seats up front. That's not unique. You get memory seats for the driver and the passenger. The passenger is a nice touch, but you get massage here for the driver and the passenger. You're not even getting that on Genesis cars, not even on like their top, well, maybe the G90, but like this is a very luxe touch. And the massage that you get here is not just some lazy air bladder that kind of pushes you in the back. It is legitimate massage, and it's like pretty good. You've got physical buttons for it on your seat too. It's kind of some of the only physical buttons in the cabin. You've got some physical buttons for your steering wheel, but the rest of it is all kind of digital haptic slidery screen type stuff, which I have mixed feelings about, but at least it's a clean design. And to be honest, the interaction, there's not a lot of latency or lag, so the tech is actually a strong point in the car, I would say. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But the materials overall, the design overall is certainly upmarket. There's a diversity of textures. We've got our kind of, I forget what the color is called, but we've got our kind of two-tone interior here with the honeycomb stitching and the perforations in the seat that feel very Audi. We've got white piping, contrasted white stitching. It goes across the dash into the door card. We've got some like faux, I don't know if it's faux wood going across the dash to give it a sense of richness and premiumness. And if that wasn't enough, there's this really kind of interesting digital stardust pattern that you get from the ambient light across your dash and into your door card that makes this feel so much more premium and upscale than anything else in the class by a mile. But then when you bring it back to something a little bit more practical, a little bit more dailyable, the storage here is fantastic. I've got a huge center bin down here to my right. I've got cup holders that are in the spot that would generally be less ergonomic, but the dash doesn't jut out like you'd see in a Mazda or something like that. So I can actually put my bottle in the closest cup holder to the screen, and it's not in the way of any of the buttons because everything is oriented correctly. It blocks the vents a little bit, but really not much. But we've got more storage in the doors. This is enormous door storage here. So if you've got one of those huge water bottles, shout out shooting cars, if you've got the big frickin' bottle, I bet it fits in the door card here. Overall, cabin design, materials, just diversity of textures, everything, this is probably the best in the class. And when it comes to cargo practicality, Of course, your tailgate is powered here for your R-line, and then the space that you have is expansive. With the rear seats up, you're looking at about 33 cubic feet of space, which is pretty expansive. You can fold the rear seats from the top of the rear seats, and with them folded down, you're looking at 73 cubic feet of space, which is certainly competitive and near class leading. And arguably more importantly, when the seats do fold, it's a nice continuous flat floor. But back to the trunk area, you've got some side pockets on either side of the floor, you've got an outlet, and underneath the floor, you have a spare tire. And that's not something you can take for granted these days, but overall the space and the practicality is certainly competitive with everything else in the class. And I don't know what this beeping is, but it sounds like the car is going to explode any second. Maybe it's because I kicked my foot under here. Yep, that did it. And when it comes to technology, you've got everything that you could want here. Head-up display, full color, cool, boom. Digital instrument cluster, 10 inches. Loads of different views and screens, great. 15-inch center screen. This is enormous, and it's actually pretty quick. I don't have any problem with the tech here. This is not VW reviews from 2-3 years ago where the tech was really a hamstring of the car. This is done well here. Wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. The 360 camera that you get here, it's standard for the R-line, but the resolution isn't amazing. You get a wireless charger down here. It's that kind that has a little flap that holds it up against the wall, which I do like. It keeps it out of the way, and I don't know, it's just kind of nice. But your IQ Drive, your driver assistance suite here, it's pretty solid. It's not going to win any crazy awards, but it works pretty well. It has a lane change assist. It doesn't have an eyeball watcher, which I like, but it has a lane change assist, so it's reading the road and it'll make the lane change for you. You got to keep your hands on the wheel, so it's more of a gimmick than anything, but it does it pretty quickly. Where in some other cars, like especially my Hyundai Ioniq 5N, like it takes a second, so I never end up letting the car do it for me. So this actually is done pretty well. Then when you move back to the rear seats, the space is immaculate back here. I have an ocean of knee room in front of me. I've got plenty of headroom, even with the big panoramic roof, which is standard for your R-line trim. The seats don't recline per se, but they're still certainly really comfortable. You've got the same nice kind of honeycomb quilting with perforations that really reminds me of like an Audi. You've got vents back here. You've got a third climate zone back here. You've got heated seats back here. You've got USB-Cs, map pockets, and of course, your center armrest with some cup holders back here. The only thing that you're missing, like I mentioned before, is you don't have window shades, but the rest of it, I'm 6'1", sitting behind myself, and this is how much room I have. This is great. Now with all of these pros in mind, you're probably expecting me to get to price and actually have it on the con side of the video. Obviously we didn't do that. The price actually is pretty competitive here, especially considering what you can get. Now the S, the Tiguan, where it starts as base, starts at about $29,500. That's the same as a RAV4 and a CRV. And if you want to go up to the SEL R line like we have here, it starts at $39,800. And that's also competitive on the higher end of the segment, and that's with the huge panoramic roof. You're not going to get that on a topped-out CRV. With a 360 camera, you're not going to get that on a topped-out CRV. You've got massage seats here, legitimate massage seats. You're not getting that anywhere else in the class. I mean, as tested with the turbo and all of the colors and the bells and whistles that we have here, we're testing at $44,500, but that still represents a pretty decent value for 270 horsepower and all of these luxuries and amenities, and it looking this cool and being this practical. Let's cover a couple odds and ends before we get with Paulo. But a couple odds and ends before we get with Paulo and go for a bit of a drive. We've got the Bop It style gear selector now that we've seen proliferate through the Hyundais, but it's here on your Tiguan here as well. And we talked about technology, but I want to zoom back in on this bit here. This is obviously your volume scroller. It's really cool, this kind of knurled plastic that's kind of gradiented dripping. Really cool design, but it's also a screen. You press it in, and now I can control things like the atmospheres. If I want to scroll over this way, then I can select atmospheres, which basically changes the entire personality of the car in terms of color and some of the responsiveness to things. But it also is worth noting that the SEL gets 30 colors of ambient light, so you're not just stuck with these predetermined atmospheres. But you can also select drive modes through here. You can select it down here, or of course you can use your screen if you'd prefer, which is just wild. I've never seen a multi-function volume knob like this before. Cool or not? Now this is a VW Tiguan, just kind of inherently like a pretty normal family SUV, not a hardcore off-roader, and this one is the turbo, so the more performance-oriented one, and yet, if I scroll one more, I've got this entire screen populated with like off-road type stuff. I've got steering angle, hill descent, stability control, I've got an altimeter, and I've got GPS coordinates. Again, it's not super crazy, but when you consider the fact that you go over here, and I go to drive modes, and I've got an off-road mode, I think I can even customize some of my off-road mode stuff, which is wild. And if you don't want to control your drive modes down here, you can go up to your app menu and then hit the Experience tab. And now you can experience the joys of eco mode, the resplendence of comfort, the exhilaration of sport, and I guess off-road for the 6 of you that'll do that. And the SEL here gets Harman Kardon audio, which is pretty good. And then finally, as far as towing goes, you got 1,800 pounds of capacity. That's up 300 in your all-wheel drive. And for front-wheel drive equipped Tiguans, you're gonna do about 1,500 pounds. So let's get with Paulo and go for a bit of a drive. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. There's boost. It's very boosty. It's very peaky.
More power this year, faster.
More
we
power
like that.
than a GTI.
Yeah.
260 something versus 240 in the GTI.
We were just talking about that. That's pretty impressive.
It's wild.
It needed it, so we're glad that they added it here.
Yes. Yeah, the old Tiguan did 0 to 60 in like 9 seconds. This one is significantly faster.
Yeah.
And it feels it. And it feels it even when you don't want to feel it, which we'll talk about throttle calibration a little bit later. But
yes, we will.
Let's talk about some of the things that stood out to you this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was thoroughly impressed. When I stepped in this car, you just look at all the convenient features that you get: heated, cooled seats. You have really good massaging seats.
The massage is legit. It's not just like an air bladder that like pushes you around.
No, it is.
It'll like knead you in the back.
It is better than some of the 100,000 plus cars that we've been in terms of like.
It's true.
Yeah.
For less than half the money.
You also have multi-heated steering wheel.
Yeah, 3 levels.
You have really good convenience features, like your seats on both sides will recline when you step into the vehicle.
Yeah.
And then
you got memory seats over here too.
Memory seats over there. The convenience lighting when you approach the vehicle and exit the vehicle is awesome as well, and like those subtle details.
The puddle lamps are pretty cool.
The puddle lamps are cool. You get a pano, and I guess I say all that to just say, for $45,000, you get an awesome package here. Like, I am very impressed how far your $45,000 goes here.
Yeah.
And I know 100%. In this day of age, like $45,000 seems like a lot of money for a car, and it is. But if you compare it to everything else, like, this is very, very reasonable.
Yeah. No, when you consider the main rivals to this in this class are like segment benchmarks like RAV4 CRV. Like, my wife has the top trim CRV, Sport Touring, and it doesn't have a panel roof. It doesn't have 360 cameras. It doesn't have cooled seats. It certainly doesn't have massage seats. It doesn't have heated rear seats.
Yep.
You have all that stuff here.
Yeah.
3rd zone of climate. Like, very, very impressed with the amount of kit that they have stuffed into this thing and delivered at the price point that it is.
Yeah, no.
And especially when it's got over 260 horsepower to boot.
Right, yeah. And I'm gonna go back to an old Paulo quote, but it certainly punches above its weight.
You love it. I was waiting for it.
No, it really, really does. It is like, I haven't been this impressed.
This one actually is punching above its weight.
No, it really, you're right, you're right. I haven't been this impressed with like the price and what it offers in a really long time. So yeah, they did a good job here.
I'm also surprised to see like a German entry being arguably the value option. If you want all the kit, I mean, sure, if you want less kit, then, you're more concerned about reliability and stuff, then the Japanese might still be the way to go. But if you just want all the bells and whistles and something that looks good, is quick, like, this is the value option. Yeah. This is the same price as the CRV and the RAV4, but gets you so much more. And it does it in a really, really handsome package that feels more upscale.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, the driving, like behind the wheel, it's easy. Like, suspension is pretty good. Powertrain, there's a few little things which we'll kind of get to, but like steering inputs, all those things, it's like pretty normal.
It handles the best.
Yeah,
having taken my RAV4 and my CRV to the Motorplex and done lapping in those, like, this certainly handles the best out of the segment. So yeah, no, it drives well.
Yeah, and then I think just like the last thing I'll mention, sucker for sandstone.
Oh,
Love
the
it.
paint.
I love the paint. I think like this is the spec to send. Like this is it.
They knew who they were
like
sending it
You're
to.
right,
They
yeah.
were like, PF Douchey's gonna get in this car, and he's just gonna be like,
absolutely love it. Yeah.
yes.
Now, some of the things that I think from like a negative perspective can't all be, sunshines and rainbows. Small little things like from a headroom perspective, I'm as low as a seat can go, and I'm nearly touching. I have about an inch or two from a headroom perspective.
Sure.
That's kind of a little bit of a bummer. Engine noise, this being the turbo, and we have dual exhaust, we just checked, but you don't see the outlets.
Yeah, there's no outlets or exposed exhaust, but you do have dual.
I wish that it sounded a bit more sporty,
like
performance. Yeah, it sounds honestly similar to like my Prius.
It sounds very industrial, very economy car, and I
Yeah.
know this engine can sound better because this engine is in everything in Volkswagen, which means it's in the GTI. It's in, a version of it's in the R. Like, put a performance exhaust on this thing, get it to open up and sound better, and you've got like a legitimate Tiguan GTI situation going on here.
Yep. Small thing, I think.
Small thing, but I mean, hey, we're that close.
MPG, I was a little
Underimpressed?
yeah. So Matt and I think we're both averaging around 25, 26.
Yeah, mid-20s. Maybe in the summer you can get close to like high 20s. The Lakeshore Loop fuel economy test is like 33, but that flatters cars.
It's very flattering.
It's very flattering. So.
Real world 25, 26. I'd want something a little bit more especially in this application.
Yeah. Yeah, I complained about this earlier in the video. The only thing, like objectively, like you can really take it on. There's no hybrid, there's no plug-in hybrid, there's no mild hybrid.
Yeah.
Everything else is bringing that now. The Mazdas are bringing it, the Subaru's bringing it now. So like, it's just this and the Nissan, the Rogue, that don't bring hybrid. So it'll come. Volkswagen said it's coming, but it's just not here yet. So we've got to take it for it.
And then the last thing I think that Matt kind of alluded to earlier in the video is.
Do you know this guy?
No, I know.
Going so slow.
Yeah, he's going 7 under. It's just around the throttle input and the timing of the turbos kicking in. I think we both individually experienced it and then talked about it, but I feel like, you have 10% throttle input, 15% throttle input, and the power is very linear. All of a sudden you get to like 17% power throttle input, and you have this huge burst of when the turbos actually spool up, and it gives you this insane amount of power. And I just wish it was a bit more linear for, daily livability.
Yeah, I did find in eco mode was the least offensive, but it is, you get into throttle and then you get engine response, lag, and then boost. And when the boost comes in, I mean, it's significant. So driving it smoothly at low speeds is more challenging than you'd expect.
Yeah.
It's really fun to drive at higher speeds when you're pushing it, but just like around the parking lot, just like through traffic in the city, like it's just, you're gonna have a better time in eco mode where it dulls some of that throttle response a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
So.
No, but I mean, that was really it. Again, really impressed with what they were able to deliver here.
Yeah, no, I genuinely am. When we thought, well, because we spent, or at least I spent last week in a Taos.
Yeah, I wasn't here.
So I spent last week in the Taos, and I came away less than impressed with that car. And then when I knew that we were getting the Tiguan this week, I still kind of had that taste in my mouth, and I was like, all right, it's going to be like fine, but not impressed. I am genuinely impressed. I like this a lot more than I expected to. It's a very, very complete car. Looks great. Interior's really well done. A lot of detailing, a lot of like pizzazz. It makes the car feel special. Huge back seat, huge trunk, loads of kit, all the tech. Like, I really don't have an issue with this car. Like, I really don't.
No, the screen is bigger than the laptop I had in college.
The screen is bigger than the TV that I had in my bedroom. So, no, I'm very impressed. So, thank you, VW, for letting us have a go in your Tiguan, and thank you to you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.